first question is in relation to the lightning storms that took place last night and also a few days ago. The status of the damage, if any, to homes, and also if there have been any casualties that are reported. What is the status so far?
Thank you very much. The early warning unit, the Meteorological Services Department, they issued a forecast which covered almost the whole of this week, but more importantly, the 8 to 10, meaning today, was the longest forecast they gave, that they were going to have some heavy downpours in the provinces of Matabeleland, Harare Metropolitan Province. I'm sure since we are in Harare, you also witnessed that. The Midlands Province, which of late bore the greatest brunt of the current rain season, especially the two districts of Gokwe North and Gokwe South. Then the most terrifying one, when they mentioned it, was Manicaland. Manicaland, I'm sure, as you are aware, that was the epicenter of the most disastrous hydrometeorological disaster we experienced in this country in the form of Cyclone Idai. And you could still see the residual effects of that Cyclone Idai, in that we still have people living in tents at Nganku, at the village, and at Kopa. So, but the good news now about those internally displaced people is that as government, we have now sourced the funds from Treasury, and we are already in the process of constructing permanent structures for the affected families.
Okay. In the last week, has there been any damage from lightning strikes?
Not only last week, it's only that there was a sudden break because of the dry spell. If you check from October, this season didn't start on a good note. Since October, quite a number of infrastructure, especially our social amenities, the schools, the clinics, and some rural homesteads, had their roofs blown off, including, I think the most topical one was the Chivu prison complex. Motare, a college had its roof also blown off. So you would find that now it's about 1,500 homesteads destroyed by the current violent storms we are experiencing in this country.
Do you have teams on the ground now, especially in the areas that you've mentioned, for the flood warning that was given?
Yeah, when you look at our civil protection subnational structures, they are headed by the district development coordinators, those who used to be called the DAs. Mm-hmm. They are in charge. Okay. So the civil protection system is a committee system. It's made up of government, ministries, departments, and also partners. This is where partners come in. So we will also encourage partners not to form parastructures, but to work with the government, their government counterparts. But for the urban areas, since you have mentioned Harare Metropolitan Province, so is Blawa, so is Gwanda, so is Mutare, I urge our local authorities to ensure that all the storm drains for now are cleared so that we avoid these flash floods. If you move around the city of Harare today, you will see a lot of dams all over the place, meaning that the system is failing to drain the water. I know in certain instances they clean the drains, leave what they have removed from those storm drains. Then those who collect rubbish, they take time, and at the end of the day, the same which they take out will find its way in the same storm drains. So there must be a coordination in that aspect. And it now also requires a better spatial planning regime when you look at the situation. When these cities were designed, we were not as prone as we are now to climate change related hazards. So I think those who went to school in dealing with better physical planning, which is climate sensitive, it's high time they should start assisting our local authorities.
Okay. Then, speaking of climate change, talk to us about what the Civil Protection Unit is doing during the year. Right now, there's a possible drought that's been predicted. What activities are happening on the ground with local communities to prepare for climate-related disasters?
I'm happy that there is a department in the ministry now, in the Ministry of Environment, Tourism, Climate, and in that ministry anyway, which deals directly with issues to do with climate change. But during the year, it is one department, whilst it was even housed in the Ministry of Lands, which we have worked with very closely. We did some pilot projects in 6 selected districts from Chiredzi again up to Lupani, trying to make people aware of the effects of climate change. But more importantly, as you talked about the drought, I'm sure you are aware that on the 6th of August last year, His Excellency, the President, declared a state of drought disaster, which also combined the residual effects of Cyclone Idai, which again is climate change induced. So I think we are also factoring in issues to do with climate change in whatever we are doing as a department.
Okay, all right. And then going forward, what would you say to communities, especially in urban areas, on how they can prepare for flood warnings or any related incidents, especially with the flood warning that was given?
Let me say there are some people already living in wetlands who must always be alert, checking on the water levels in their areas. And I urge the local authorities to ensure that that issue is also properly managed. Otherwise, we are sitting on a serious time bomb. Anytime it will then explode. You can't rule out. And most of the houses were placed in waterways. And you can't rule out that we are likely then to retrieve some dead bodies from those areas, because they have actually blocked all the waterways in our cities. Again, that's an area of major concern to us. There are thousands of people who were allocated stands in wetlands, and you can actually see that we are sitting on a time bomb. And for those who have also illegally settled themselves in certain areas, they must also check for their own health, because this is the time when we also experience some waterborne related diseases like cholera and your typhoid, because of the poor sanitation, poor sources of water which they drink. So they must also be on high alert and be able to report to the nearest authority if they suspect any problems related to the challenges I've highlighted.
Last question, have you, as a Civil Protection Unit, engaged the City Council, especially like the City Council of Harare, where building on wetlands is now a big problem, especially related to that?
We have always been engaging all the local authorities, and you would find that their biggest challenge is one of land barons. Yes, and once we deal with the menace of land barons, we are then able to deal with the issues to do with the illegal settlements in our cities.